Give it a little scoobity and a bit of bobbity.
Where am I? I remember waiting in line to look at a sign. Then a flash of red, which I would normally enjoy, but this one felt different. Everything feels more 3D than usual. Hold on. I think I remember something. A conversation. While we were standing in line. This must be before we left to search out the person who stole our game stuff last year. That's right! We were finally reviewing Breath of the Wild.
What is this line for again?
To see that sign over there in the distance.
It's a line to look at a sign.
Don't be benign. Yes, it's a line to look at a sign, but it's fine. The day is divine, so suck it up and don't whine. Standing and waiting in line isn't that much of a crime for you, is it?
That was a lot. Whatever, we'll be here for a while. Do you want to finally review... You know, out loud to no one in particular?
Maybe we'll entertain those waiting in line with us.
Oh, can we get costumes for this?
Because making these videos isn't hard enough.
It was a question, but now it's a demand.
Fine. Yes, here.
Ooh, thanks. The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild is a new brand of Zelda game that released on the Nintendo Switch and Wii U on March 3rd, 2017. This installment saw the Zelda formula take on a brand new shape that makes it feel more generic and boring than Zelda games past.
This installment of the Zelda series takes on the appearance and grandiose undertaking of an open-world game. Instead of a sequential 8 or 9 dungeon romp through Hyrule, you get to do open-world stuff like collect 100 crickets, find 398 seeds, and other things that pad the runtime.
The story of Breath of the Wild starts 100 years ago. Oh wait, 1,000 years ago. Oh, hold on. 10,000 years ago? Din's fire, this is ridiculous. We're gonna start 100 years ago, when a tremendous dark purple fart named Calamity Ganon awoke and took over Hyrule. He and the beasts he summoned killed the king, the 4 champions, and much of Hyrule's inhabitants. During the uphill battle, Link was injured and placed in a healing pod for 100 years, while Zelda went to Hyrule Castle to hold Calamity Ganon back.
For 100 years, Ganon's true power has been held by Zelda. The Master Sword lay dormant. The array of about 8 different monsters has kept any chance of revolt tamped down, and Link has napped. He napped a mighty nap. He snoozed and snored for 100 years.
Then his alarm went off, and his adventure began again. Your goal as Link is to traverse the land, rescue the 4 divine beasts, defeat as many blights, rescue as many champions, then see to it that Ganon is destroyed forever.
What about the shrines?
Oh, right. Your goal as Link is to traverse the land, finding shrines to complete, rescue the 4 divine beasts, defeat as many blights, rescue as many champions, then see to it that Ganon is destroyed forever.
What about collecting all the Korok seeds?
I hate you. Your goal as Link is to traverse the land, finding shrines to complete, collecting Korok seeds, rescue the 4 divine beasts, defeat as many blights, to rescue as many champions.
What about getting pictures of Gerudo for that one creepy guy? Or not stepping on that one woman's flower so you can get into a shrine? Oh, what about—
Alright, I get it!
This is an open world game now, so there are 4 billion things you can do instead of actually participating in the story the game is desperately trying to remind you exists. Some of these things are necessary in providing a somewhat playable experience, like the shrines that provide you a spirit orb, 4 of which will increase your HP or your stamina at goddess statues, the Korok seeds which will expand your shield, bow, or weapon inventories if you give enough to Hetsu. Beyond those 2 things to seek out, side quests seem superfluous beyond wasting your time for pitiful amounts of money or just okay weapons.
Of course, if you think you have the cojones for it, you can fly directly into Hyrule Castle and take on Ganon with the smallest of supplies possible. Completely upending the story and stealing the thunder the 4 champions were supposed to have when they combined together into the Super Dragon Zord. I mean, their laser.
If you choose to play the game like a person instead of an animal, you'll complete 4 trials on the Great Plateau, receive the paraglider from this mysterious old man, then descend to the world in search of the 4 divine beasts. Each one is held by a different race of Hyrule. Along the way, you'll meet new characters such as Purah, who is a 100-year-old child because an experiment went wrong. She'll upgrade the abilities on your Sheikah Slate.
The Sheikah Slate is integral to your adventure because it allows you to use different runes such as infinite bombs, cubed, or spherical. Ice pillars, only 3 at a time on waterfalls, pools of water, and mud. Stasis, which allows you to freeze things, hit them a bunch to build momentum, and then launch them. Magnetism, which allows you to move magnetized things. Taking pictures, which is really useless, and more.
Another new character is Robbie.
How is there anyone in Hyrule named Robbie? Characters are named Link, Zelda, Impa, Purah, Daphnis no Hansen, but here we have Robbie.
Hey, don't make fun of his stupid name. He helps you get ancient weaponry to help you fight stuff.
That's helpful, sure, but his name is so ridiculous. It's like having someone here named Sarah. It just doesn't fit the world.
I see it. I just don't know why it's that funny to you. Anyway, a name we may all recognize in this game, Impa. She is Nehru-loving old now, and is here to exposit all over Link about the origin of the Guardians, the Divine Beasts, and Link's lost memories. Because while he was taking what the Hatsuno Village Esquire Gazette calls simply the best nap, Link apparently lost all of his memories, and by finding 12 specific ones, he can recall everything that happened that led him to this point. This seems ridiculous, but using the camera feature on your Sheikah slate, Zelda took pictures of 12 areas of Hyrule that you can seek out to get Link his memories back.
Holy shit, these are so fucking vague. Here's a forest, here's a bridge, here's another forest, here's a tree. Where is any of this? How is anyone logically supposed to know these exact locations?
That's part of the open world fun of this game, right? Discovering these isolated molecules of memory and reobtaining what was lost to Link. Each time you find one, it even lights up to indicate, hey, you'll remember something here. And then you do. Often through someone else's gaze.
Yeah, why are most of these memories sans Link? If they're supposed to remind Link what happened, shouldn't they, feature him? Also, no one ever takes a picture to commemorate why this memory is special. Zelda held possession of the slate at the time and knew how to take pictures. Shouldn't each memory somehow involve Zelda taking a picture of an area to tell us why this picture is so integral to Link's memories?
I simply do not know. As you collect each of whoever's memories these are supposed to be, they tell a story of Zelda struggling to awaken the powers to fight Ganon, Link becoming Zelda's chosen knight, introductions to each of the 4 champions, and some special moments shared between Zelda and other people who aren't Link.
Speaking of the champions, there are 4 and they all hail from 4 races of Hyrule who are not Hylian, Sheikah, or controlled by Ganon. The Gorons, the Zora, the Rito, and the Gerudo. Zelda visited each of their respective population centers and picked the best of the best from each race to take control of the divine beasts located in each area.
From the Gorons, Daruk was chosen, arguably the most animated of any of the champions. He's a larger-than-life character with the power to create a shield around himself that blocks any and all attacks, and even reflects energy-based projectiles. He wields a huge clobbering blade that can bash boulders to bits. He's also afraid of dogs. He was probably chosen for his heart, his strength, and the fact he can create shields.
From the Zora, Mipha was chosen, the most reserved of the champions and the only one who can heal wounds. She wields a mighty trident only matched by her will to save others and her feelings for Link, which she does not hide well, except around Link. He's as oblivious as a door. She fears nothing and is an incredibly shy character. She was probably chosen for her ambitious nature, her positive attitude, and the fact she can heal others.
From the Rito, Ravioli was chosen.
Rivali.
That's what I said, Ravioli. Certainly the champion with the biggest chip on his shoulder. His personality clashes with every other champion's, but most importantly, Link's. Ravioli is not on board for playing second fiddle to someone who wields the Master Sword, and he makes that known as he challenges Link every chance he can. He doesn't come without his benefits, however, as he can create updrafts that lift him into the air for a high-flying surprise attack. He was likely chosen because of... well, that, actually, probably just for that.
Finally, from the Gerudo, Urbosa was chosen. This badass lady is not afraid to fight and she will give her life in service of Zelda. She is an acrobatic and agile 9-foot-tall kick-ass woman who wields the ability to channel lightning with the snap of her fingers. She even demonstrates her incredible athleticism and lightning snaps in one of Link's memories. She was likely chosen because of, well, the lightning mostly. I would bet it was entirely that.
Did any other member of any of these tribes even stand a chance against any of the champions? Far as we're aware, none of the other Rito, Gerudo, Goron, Zora, what have you, possess any sort of spectacular ability that would set them apart from the rest of their horde. Was there any debate? Any discussion?
I don't know about you, Andy, but I'd step out of the way of any fish, giantess, rock creature, or anthropomorphic parakeet that spoke up and said it had any of these abilities.
There are even traces of some of these champions passing on their abilities as well. Daruk and Ravioli passed on their abilities to their grandchildren, Yunobu and Teba, respectively. Why didn't Mipha teach Sidon how to heal, or Urbosa teach anyone how to summon lightning? It's an annoying mystery.
Each of these champions perished in battle within their own divine beasts, ironically, to 4 different amalgamations of Ganon's fury, all affectionately named Blights, with a prefix denoting the environment they inhabit and the element they have their abilities themed after. Water, wind, fire, and lightning.
Thunder. It's Thunderblight Ganon.
Right, Lightning Blight.
I see what you're doing. Stop it.
Link must brave the areas and hazards that are between you and the divine beasts, whether that be riding the wind and destroying the beast's shield to enter it from a height of hundreds of feet,
Riding up the waterfalls on its sides using Zora gear to shoot pulsing orbs on its side,
riding a sand seal and shooting its feet to stop it from causing a sandstorm,
or guiding an annoying large rock man so you can shoot him at its feet so it can eventually just sit and wait for you to enter it.
Aw, I wanted to ride another creature and shoot another part of its body.
Rule of threes, James. sometimes? Isn't it more fun avoiding enemies that can kill you in one shot while you try not to catch fire in an environment where you can only wear the weakest armor known to man?
No, it isn't. I didn't like any of the riding sequences, but this is not much better than those.
After you become a master of whatever animal, element, or chiseled piece of man-fish you're meant to ride, you are presented with 4 separate dungeons. Each one has different challenges attuned to a world where you can solve most puzzles however you want, even if the answer looks really, really stupid.
Hey, it worked, didn't it?
It certainly is faster. Braving the trials and tribulations and the funky map controls of each beast will bring you to several terminals and finally to the blight fights we mentioned earlier. 3 of these 4 fights are simple, fun, and relaxing romps through the various skills you've learned on your journey. The 4th is a delicate dance of mediocre combat and magnetism that will have even the most seasoned Zelda game player cracking their controller over their knee.
Bullshit Blight Ganon is a boss that requires you to make use of things called the Flurry Rush and the parry, I think. The Flurry Rush is when you dodge an enemy attack at the perfect time. Everything slows down and Link gets 2 full sets of combos in with whatever weapon he's carrying. Then time goes back to normal. Similar situation with the parry, except you must have a shield and you must repel an attack at the perfect moment. Both of these things complicate and change combat into something the Zelda series has never seen before.
To the sacred realm with things that were fun to use, such as the Helm Splitter, the shield attack, the mortal blow. Enjoy these generic countering moves that will one day make their way into Smash, making Link the 300th Fire Emblem character.
Defeating each Blight will unchain the champion's soul from their own divine beast and allow their ghost to control them. After a short cutscene, the beast will perch itself atop a mountain or rock and shoot a laser directly at Hyrule Castle. Then you dismount the area and continue to the next divine beast for even more strange map controls, even more eyes to shoot, and another Blight boss battle.
But not before each champion bestows upon you their very own toned-down version of each of their powers. Mipha's Grace can revive Link from death
once, and then again after a 30-minute recharge.
Urbosa's Fury allows her to use lightning when you charge your attacks
3 times, then you have to wait 12 minutes for it to recharge.
Ravioli's Gale will send Link high into the sky, allowing him to soar over cliffs and caverns
for 3 updrafts, then you get to wait 6 minutes for it to recharge.
And Daruk's Protection will repel 3 attacks of any kind as long as Link is guarding.
Hope you're ready for that 18-minute recharge after your 3rd blocked attack.
In addition to Link finally ceasing abuse of his snooze button, traversing 4 treacherous dungeons, braving vast fields of nothing, and more nothing, you can find and enter these things called shrines. These are self-contained mini-dungeons usually made of 1 or 2 puzzles focused on teaching you different ways to use your abilities, or their fights with a mini-guardian. And sometimes, aggravatingly, they're a hallway with no puzzle, no challenge, nothing! Most of them have a treasure chest with a material, weapon, or armor piece in it, and the person at the end of the puzzle grants Link a spirit orb. Collecting 4 of these and bringing them to any of the goddess statues will allow you to increase Link's HP by 1 heart, or his stamina meter by 1...
Don't worry, no matter how much you increase your stamina meter, it'll never be enough. Just like any store stock of any collector's edition of anything, it'll be gone before you know it. Then you plummet to your death. Goodbye, progress. See you when next I give enough of a fuck to try and fucking climb this fucking rock face again. Whee!
When you're not sliding off mountains in a rainstorm, falling to your death, or scaling these towers to fill in the map on your Sheikah slate, you can engage in one of the main focuses of Breath of the Wild: combat! There are several hundred enemies dotted throughout the land, with about a dozen variations to fight. Bokoblins, Moblins, Lizalfos, Lionel, Molduga, Hinox, Stone Talos, Plebbles, Keese, Choo-Choo, Octoroks, Wizrobes, and their different colors and elements indicating strength. Of course, if you're sick of living and enjoying yourself, you can take on these big octo-armed demons called Guardians.
These ancient Doom servers come in several forms, from having all 8 arms, to only having a few arms, to having no arms. In any event, they will spot you, they will use their laser to point at you, and then they will shoot a laser at you that will kill you instantly if you don't possess enough hearts or good enough reflexes. You can also stun them by shooting their eyes and beat them to death, but that's a waste of resources according to the internet.
By being good at the game, you can parry the laser back at the Guardian, in some cases killing it.
I ran from them. I couldn't nail the button timing. Fuck!
As you saw when you were yelling at Yunobu to stand still, there are flying guardians as well. Some smaller variations even pop up in shrines too. These drop ancient and rare materials you'll need for the, wait for it, crafting system!
That's right, there are crafting and cooking systems in this game. For cooking, combine different things near pots with fires lit under them and cook them. It will allow you to test your cooking capabilities and test your stomach's fortitude. Combine the right items with a hearty item and create the only concoctions you'll need.
Hearty dishes. Quite literally, the only dishes you'll need. Sell everything else for pitiful amounts of money. They heal you completely and offer armored hearts as long as you don't already have 20. If you're stupid enough to get 20, you just get the benefits of a full heal, so only combine the bare minimum for those hearty dishes.
The crafting system is really only used for the ancient weapons and armor set. You get them from Robbie, who we mentioned earlier, whose name I will continue to laugh at.
You will need only so many materials when attempting to build these, and anything else is useless unless it helps you craft the hearty dishes, so feel free to sell anything that isn't ancient or hearty. The only materials you'll require outside of ancient stuff and cooking things are for coloring some armor pieces, for accessing 3 blessing shrines, and a side quest or 2.
As you travel the vast and empty land of Hyrule to find shrines, or anything really, you may eventually come across these areas of land that seem peculiar, such as a hole. Nearby that hole may exist a rock, or this group of cubes, and a second group of cubes nearby, and their patterns are similar but different. Or even this strange balloon that looks like it needs some poppin'.
If you entertain these puzzles with your time or an arrow, a Korok will pop out of nowhere with a and give you a Korok seed. There are hundreds of these laying about the empty land of Hyrule, and each one rewards you with a seed. Bringing these seeds to Hestu, first here on this mountain, then in Korok Village after he collects enough, will allow you to expand your weapon slots, your shield slots, or your bow slots separately. Each slot expansion will cost more seeds over time as well.
Why can't you expand your armor slots?
Do you really think you'll be able to fill all 100 armor slots in this game?
If I cared enough, maybe.
True, you do have to scour the landscape to find that many, but it still seems odd you can't hold all the armor in the game at once. Oh well, I guess everyone's closet runs out of room at some point. Nintendo just didn't want us to hold all of their fancy shirts, pants, and hats.
I guess we don't need armor we can't upgrade.
Ah, right. If you find and pay any of the 4 great fairies, you can use money and materials to upgrade your armor parts. Upgrading all 3 of a certain set twice each will improve the whole set's abilities when worn together.
I just sold everything that didn't make hearty meals and ancient stuff, Andy. Are you saying there's a third hidden way to use the many useless things enemies in the vast empty world offer me?
Yeah, I suppose. But look at it like this. Had you not sold everything, you wouldn't have had enough money to power up any of your favorite armor pieces.
Your logic is flawless, but I do not appreciate you tricking me like that.
It wasn't a trick. It was a lesson.
Thank you for taking this opportunity to be a dick.
You're welcome. After scaling every mountain, roaming every field, saving each champion, collecting hundreds of Korok seeds, dying 300 times to different things, and making 40 hearty meals for your trek, you can finally attempt the climb into the belly of Hyrule Castle so you can put Calamity Ganon to bed. After a short cutscene showing how dangerous and large the evil purple fart is, your adventure can begin.
You can take on the castle at any time during your game. As soon as you descend the Great Plateau, you can fly directly to Ganon if you want, like this, but imagine me sans armor, sans all these hearts, and sans any preparations.
You didn't even attempt to do any of the trekking you prepared for. There's a lot of weapons and helpful items in there, James, and you just flew by them like they didn't matter. What kind of adventurer are you?
One who knows that none of that will matter in the final battle. Anyway, fly directly into this grand hall, descend below, and begin your fight with Ganon after he is born from an egg. I guess Zelda was keeping him there until you showed up conveniently.
If you rescued the 4 champions, a cutscene plays in which each of them gets their moment to shoot their fourth of a giant laser at the castle. Then a giant beam blasts Ganon and rips away half of his health, leaving you to take him down during the second phase of his fight. This will encompass attacks from each of the 4 blights you fought before, along with some new attacks specific to this boss.
Then you beat him, and that's it.
Yep, that's totally it. There's no conclusion or anything to get to. No redemption we get to see Zelda finally get. Nope.
Fine, after this battle that utilizes everything you've learned up to this point in the game, the real final boss starts. Outside, in the middle of a random empty field when Calamity Ganon takes on his final beastly form. He shoots lasers, he stomps, and it's your job while riding on horseback to shoot the weak points Zelda yells at you to shoot at. Then an eye opens on his back and you shoot that too, then the battle ends.
It's a very anticlimactic battle. You spend the whole game experiencing what is essentially every single generic open-world RPG trope and gameplay mechanic, only to be handed the most original formula final boss Zelda has ever done. The only difficulty this boss has is keeping your horse alive, which James couldn't even do right.
I tried, okay?
Yeah, tried to kill your horse. Anyway, this battle is so jarring and out of place in this game of semi-original flavor bosses, second phases with more attacks kicking in after the health bar depletes, and a real point. Ganon feels so goofy and lumbering. He's in the middle of a field shooting lasers into an already devastated wasteland. May as well be fighting a balloon in the realm Demise takes you in Skyward Sword. Then the credits roll and you've finished one of the least interesting Zelda adventures this side of the universe.
Breath Breath of the Wild was such a massive departure from the Zelda formula that it totally took me by surprise. I was shocked to find none of the things I would usually rely on in games past was there to break my fall when I made a mistake. Fairies were harder to find, I had to cook the things I needed, the Master Sword is this fucking toothpick instead of the Blade of Evil's Bane.
Oh yeah, the Master Sword sucks. It's a breakable piece of equipment barely stronger than any other weapon in the game that forces you to have 13 hearts before you obtain it. You could go the whole game, beat Ganon, and never even touch the thing. It becomes an irrelevant extra sword you can pick up instead of one of the focal points of the history of Zelda. Also, it can break. Then you get to wait for it to recharge. It is another chore you get to carry around on your never-ending chore-gathering adventure.
Speaking of important staples of Zelda history having their importance shuffled for absolutely no reason, Breath of the Wild's story is stupid, just very dumb. There are so many plot holes you can fit an entire game between here and there. Oh wait, they did!
How did Zelda live for 100 years? Why can only some champions pass on their gifts to their kin? Why should we feel any obligation to any of these folks above the princess literally suffering in Hyrule Castle to keep Fetus Door from hatching? But beyond even plot holes, everything interesting in Breath of the Wild already happened 100 years ago. Ganon already took over Hyrule. The champions and the king are dead. Zelda is trapped in her room and won't come out until supper. Link's and the player's part in all of this is only in the last 5 minutes of the game's story, running around fixing things. In previous Zelda games, you're right in there, watching things develop from beginning to end. But here, it's all just so separate from Link.
Combat is very generic, and the weapon durability system is 100% horseshit. Absolute horseshit. It creates another scarcity and a mountain of scarcities because why would you use the super duper flaming greatsword? What if you don't find another? You can't fix it with the billions of materials you've gathered or the rupees you collect. You had to fight a fucking Hinox to get it. Why go through the trouble of re-obtaining it? Complete horseshit. The Master Sword should be the strongest weapon you have, and the rest you should be able to keep and throw as you please without fear of them breaking at pivotal points in your adventure.
Overall, Breath of the Wild is a very generic open world game. It barely takes into account the forward momentum open world games have made in the last decade and failed to keep us invested as we travel the vast, open, empty nothing to find more nothing. Side quests reward you with materials to be sold for money or straight up money to buy more materials, and they distract from the real reason you're doing any of this: to save Zelda. I would get it if any of these side quests rewarded you with spirit orbs or something important, but it's just stuff and cash.
I did not and continue to not like Breath of the Wild. It took a second and third playthrough several years after my first to change my mind about it. I used to fucking hate it. Now I just dislike it. And that is for one reason and one reason only: Maz Kasha.
Nehru's Love. We forgot about the DLC.
Yeah, we did. Get ready for some DLC, guys.
The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild has 2 DLC packs that were announced on February 14th, 2017, mere weeks before the game actually landed in our hands, which means Nintendo expected you to divorce your partners, break up with your significant others, and stop making that heart-shaped treat for your dog, assume a bowing position, and show your undying love to their game, which we didn't even have yet, by paying more for content that would come out later.
Oh, because Valentine's Day, February 14th. I get it.
The first part of the DLC gave players a hard mode, deemed Master Mode, the Hero's Path option on the world map, and a new thing to try called the Cave of Trials.
Master Mode is the whole game again, but harder. Enemies have 2 times the HP and deal 2 times damage. Also, their HP regenerates over time, and there are golden versions of enemies hiding about the land. They eat your resources but cough up valuable sellables when defeated.
Hero's Path is a button you can press on the map to show you where all you've gone in the entirety of your adventure. Admittedly, a cool feature. Nothing we should have had to pay for.
The Cave of Trials is the set of 3 difficulty increasing challenges which strip you of your weapons and armor in order to make your Master Sword not shit.
Yep. You will only have the runes from your Sheikah slab and your shorts to outwit enemies, as you do your best to not die, only to add 10 more attack power to the Master Nothing for each of the 3 difficulties you beat.
It should come as no surprise that we bought the DLC pass, which included both packs. Andy completed all 3 difficulties of the Cave of Trials.
Not worth it.
I completed the whole game and the first level of the Trials in Master Mode. That was fucking hard.
One thing we forgot to mention, that is yet another feature we shouldn't have had to pay for, is the Travel Medallion. You find this handy circle underneath one of the mazes, and it allows you to place it down and teleport to it at any time. Pick it up, put it in another place. Climb that mountain and place it there if you want.
Then there's DLC Pack 2, which is by far the best part of the game for one reason: Maz Kasha.
Settle down. DLC Pack 2, The Champion's Ballad, adds in some ancient horse armor. Why are you making us pay for these things? A new dungeon, and several new challenges, along with new armors.
Yep, both the first and second DLC packs add in armors you can find all over Hyrule that have differing effects and looks. Although, I would have died a lot more in this game if not for Majora's Mask, which makes you appear non-threatening to most enemies.
Because nothing is better than integral armor being hidden behind a paywall. Anyway, Champion's Ballad, this is post-game content that expands the story of Breath of the Wild. In it, you must first complete a trial with a weapon called the One-Hit Obliterator. Didn't even try to workshop that one, huh, Nintendo? In which you can't take a single hit during it, but other things can take more than one hit. Of course, you can use the aforementioned One-Hit Obliterator to kill things in one hit, but where's the fun in that? You complete 4 shrines, then the trial ends, and you forfeit the extremely powerful weapon you used for this one and only instance and never see it again.
After that whole fucking deal, 4 new pillars appear in 4 regions of Hyrule. On these pillars are images of where 12 new shrines have popped up. Unfortunately, because the way you see the map and the way these images on these pillars see the map, there's no fucking way to know where any of these are. Use a guide to find them online. There are 50. Feel no shame in doing so. This was made hard for no reason.
Anyone remember Cass? Anyone met Cass? He's a blue Rito that pops up from time to time, who you can choose to ignore completely, just like most NPCs in this game. He is, for some reason, integral to this DLC, and will stop you as soon as you complete the Obliterator trial, every time you collect the 3 region-specific spirit orbs, and every time you complete the Blight memory fights.
That's right. Remember the Blight fights? Remember how some of them were hard, but most of them were easy? Ready for their difficulty to fucking skyrocket? After collecting all 3 region-specific orbs and bringing them back to the pillars that showed you where they were, Cass will teleport Link into this annoying Snapchat filter where you must refight the blights you so easily defeated. Only this time you have none of your weapons, none of your armor, and none of your food. The game took all that and replaced it with new shit. In most cases, not enough shit.
These battles are extremely tedious and will call upon your abilities to manage your resources more than anything. It becomes a war of attrition instead of a legitimate boss battle for most of these, and it is not fun, specifically in Master Mode when the blights can regain their health over time.
If you're not exhausted by this point, that's good because there's more to do. After refighting all 4 blights with none of the things you collected throughout the game, you return to the Shrine of Resurrection for 2 things. 1, this sweet fucking final dungeon.
I'm not sure what you see in this. This is just more of the same use the map to alter the paths you walk that the 4 other Divine Beasts used. It's nothing new or exciting. Or fun.
I don't know, this one felt different. Instead of turning cranks or rotating the whole map to alter one piece of a puzzle, the whole map was a giant key and lock. The 4 nodes you activate remove 4 pieces of a lock, then use your runes to move a giant piece of metal into the lock so it rotates and unlocks the door. I don't know, it felt more put together than the Divine Beasts, and certainly more than the shrines.
In comes the second thing you return to the Shrine of Resurrection to do. Meet Maz Kasha. Here he is, in his yoga pose, ready to give Link his own ceremonial sphere. But wait, what's this? A clenched fist? Oh, he doesn't intend to give Link the Spirit Orb. He intends to fight Link to prove he's worthy of it.
What follows is the best part of Breath of the Wild, which when compared to the high points in other Zelda games, is very lackluster. This boss fight calls into play everything you've learned so far, even if you're bad at parrying and countering. It even calls back to the fight you have to suffer through with Master Koga. I love this fight. I love how it utilized everything you've learned. I love how it surprised you with 3 phases instead of 2. The only boss to do this. This was so fun. It was fucking hard in Master Mode, but it was still so much fun.
After you eke out a win against the Oshkosh Bagosh, he settles down, shrinks, and gives Link the thing he's waited for all along. Not the one-hit obliterator, not the 3 upgrades to his HP or stamina he could have earned with those spirit orbs, and not a new champion ability he can call upon when he holds the jump button long enough for his knees to break. Nope, instead he gets a brand spanking new Divine Beast!
It's a motorcycle. A motorcycle? It's a motorcycle. I completed an entire generic open world game, played through the best dungeon in the game, and fought the best boss for a motorcycle? Wow. Thanks.
He's not your parents giving you socks on Christmas. He's bestowing you a responsibility that only 4 other people have ever had the honor of achieving. That's pretty big. Oh, then you get this final memory unlocked with Cass when he finishes his song, just like the other 4 you get for rebeating the Blights. Then it's done. Now you can fuel up your cycle, which you can call upon at any time with the new rune you just caught, and ride into the sunset. Who needs a horse when you got a cycle?
And that finally, and literally, is the end of Breath of the Wild, my least favorite Zelda game.
This is a Zelda game that ditched the well-known formula that Zelda fans have gotten used to for the last 30 years for this generic open-world game with a dumb story, repetitive combat, inconsequential characters, useless systems. Bet you never noticed we never talked about horses, huh? And the worst Zelda final boss since Link's Awakening. It doesn't create a bad experience, I dare say it may even create a good one, but you have to like open-world games, and we, dear friends, do not. We are not fans of this rather boring installment of the Zelda franchise, and we look forward to when the series returns to its roots, and we can finally get excited for new Zelda game announcements again.
Wow! I can't believe we talked that long about a game that came out 6 years ago. Why did we think anyone cared? Oh well. I guess I'll continue trying to remember what brought us here. You all enjoy your freedom and existences. See you all next week for another video presented like this one. Bye!